Access granted.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Redacted. I am Christopher McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80, and joining me today to chat even more about his incredible photography on all of those amazing G.I. Joe classified promo images is Matthew Cohen, aka Shooting the Galaxy. Hello there, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me again. How are you doing?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me again. I'm doing great.
It's good to see you, bud. It's been a
You
while
too.
since we did this.
I know. We've been trying to, again, make it happen for a little while, pushing things back, but I'm glad we're here.
Definitely. Last time we had you on, we talked a little bit about your professional background. We kind of looked a little bit like into sort of the technical aspects, but not like in massive detail. So that's something I think we can definitely kind of have a chat about today as we go through basically loads of your most recent work. Which, let's face it, there's been loads recently. It's been crazy. Are you okay? Are you being overworked right now? Because there's a lot of pre-order drops going on at the moment.
Oh, wait till you guys see what's coming.
I can imagine. And the funny thing is that it's not even G.I. Joe classified. You work on all sorts of brands with Hasbro, don't you?
Yeah, I'm currently shooting a Marvel project right now. And then after that, I have Star Wars and maybe G.I. Joe again after that, but it's like I'm, kind of get booked out a month in advance, sometimes up to 2 months.
Can you just tell us what G.I. Joe stuff you're doing right now, yeah?
Well, actually, I can, because what I just shot for Joe was the Dio shots for the band, which have come out. You can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to see those.
Have you utilized other figures from the line as crowd heads?
Oh, you guys will see.
I can't wait.
You guys will see.
I can't wait for this. That's amazing. That's great stuff. Exclusive, guys. Cold Slither is getting promo images. Like, that's an exclusive. Like, that wasn't obviously going to happen. I think that's quite funny. But anyway, mate, that's really cool. We'll talk a little bit more about what you're working on in the future, or probably not. But I thought let's go through loads and loads of the images that you've been kind of doing. And I thought as we go through them, we can kind of talk technical kind of aspects and stuff like that. And we'll start with the Firefighter, because that was done way back at New York Toy Fair. That's when that was revealed. Some absolutely stunning photography in this one, dude. And this is kind of where I wanted to ask you about, like, how do you even go about setting this up in the first place? Because we're talking like there's like a house diorama, there's like fire and windows breaking and all sorts of crazy stuff going on here. Like, what kind of level diorama are we talking about here? Is it a big one?
It's I think I managed to make it look bigger than it is, because what that is kind of just a dollhouse garage.
Oh, that's
been
amazing.
Like, it's not even a house, it's just a garage for a dollhouse. I've been staring at it in our we call it like the resource hallway, for a while, like wondering when I'll kind of find a place for it. When this job came through, I was like, okay, this will be a good use for this, specifically for the Firefighter.
That's brilliant.
I think that hasn't been used in maybe decades. There used to be, like many years ago, there was like a book series that Hasbro did where it was like a teddy bear storybook, and the storybook used diorama images of this teddy bear that we made. And so that was like part of, the little kids diorama world that was used in it. I guess that's the last like surviving piece from there. So that's just been sitting on a shelf collecting dust for a long time.
That's
so I was
amazing.
Happy to use it.
It's really good. I mean, it's that yellow kind of like I forget the name of the siding. It's like that yellow that classic siding that you see on the houses out on the East Coast here as well a lot. And yeah, like I was really impressed with like the fire effects that you use. Like, there's one where they're kind of like next to the window that's been broken, and the flames are kind of pouring out of the window. There's smoke. There's all sorts of stuff. I mean, I take it you're using physical smoke effects and stuff as well here.
Yeah. That was it was like it was just a mix of everything. It was really like it's the smoke getting hit with the kind of red and orange light that just really looks like the fire itself. Like right at that one point where it's just the light is just hitting it, and it just, the way the smoke, I guess, is just billowing. It just comes out like fire.
It's really good. I love it.
I
So I take
thank
you've
you.
got like a little smoke machine. Do you kind of I take it's one of those things where you have to kind of get everything set up, kind of let the smoke go, and then take as many pictures as possible before you have to kind of redo the smoke kind of effect again.
It's just a little handheld smoke machine that I like jammed into the
Oh,
building,
got it.
and
Okay.
then and it has a remote so I can trigger it while I'm at the camera and moving lights around and stuff. But I mean, it does technically, it has like, it lasts a while, but it does have a kind of a cooldown timer if you keep it smoking for too long
Oh,
without
okay.
giving it a break. Like, it needs to cool down for a second.
How many shots are you taking kind of per image here? Are you taking like, or like how many would you take in like, for like we see one image, but how many kind of shots are you taking just to make sure you get the right one?
For something like that, I probably overshoot, but it could be like 10 to 20. And it's just like looking for the smoke to hit the way I really want to, and then going back from the other ones and just being like, okay, I do like this part here and this part there, and kind of combining it all together. Um, so probably too many.
Yeah, there are so many, because then you have that horrible job of picking out the best one, which is often like the worst part of it in a sense, isn't it? Because you're like, I bet there's like about three or four sometimes, and you're like, they're all the same, they're all equally good, but there's differences in there. I don't
I'm
know what to do
I'm
here.
trying to stop doing that because it's definitely like, or if I have the figure and it's like everything's perfect and I'm adjusting something else and I bump it and it turns like 3 millimeters, and now I'm trying to get it back into the exact position and it's not hitting the way it was when I liked it, and I'm just
Right, right.
staring at it like, no, this isn't right, when it's probably fine and no one's gonna know or tell the difference or see the other picture where it wasn't ready.
Do you like come up with a lot of the ideas for poses and stuff in this, for like a set like this? Is this one of those things where it kind of hits you, the inspiration hits you on the day, or are you kind of planning out in meetings and talking about, okay, we're going to do the firefighter, we're going to need to do A, B, and C with this. We need to show this off. We need to show this accessory off. Or is that done like heat of the moment, pun intended?
It's probably more heat of the moment, especially like it's a firefighter, so it's not really like lore that I need to
Right.
learn. So we have, there's a lot of great brand representatives that are there to throwing out ideas
Oh,
in
okay.
the chat while we're working. Everyone's joking around and just having a fun time,
That's
and
awesome.
so like
So
it's a
do you share images kind of live then when you're in a chat like that, just to kind of see how
Yeah,
they like
because
it and
we
stuff?
we don't always have brand on set, and you can't just like deliver the job with them not having seen the images to be like,
Right.
surprise, we don't like this,
Yeah, do this instead. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So so there's usually everything, is kind of like people work remote, or even if they're in the same building, it's remote in the sense that they're on the other side doing what they have to do, and they're
Right.
just keeping an eye on their computer
That's really
while the
cool.
images are coming in.
You see, I didn't even think about that. I thought it would be a case of them just going, "We trust you. You've done this a few times before. Go nuts." But no, I get it. It makes perfect sense. Plus, I guess more people, more eyes on it, more ideas, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, to your point about the pose guide, like I usually don't get a pose guide because they trust me, but they still, want to, that, I still make mistakes, like using accessory wrong, or
Right.
good a lot of, good artistic vision sometimes needs, to be funneled through other people to, maybe try this, that's not working, because in my eyes it works because I know what it's supposed to be, but then
Right.
someone else sees it and they're not understanding what I'm going for. So you
Yeah.
need that feedback, because otherwise, it's just be like, the fans will be like, what is this, if someone else doesn't have, if the other people that are working on the toys look at it and like, what's going on here, then I don't know if, fans might not get it either. So you need that kind of feedback also.
That's great. And there's some absolute beauties in the firefights one, like the two of them when they're just kind of like sitting down against the wall, just like absolutely exhausted, helmets off, just kind of like one's rubbing the back of his head like that. The other one's kind of like, I love those kind of shots. And then the one where one of the firefighters is, helping the other firefighter and they've got the kind of blanket around them and everything. Just things like that. There's so many nice little kind of like, I don't know, just nice little ways that you've sort of been able to show off the accessories, but at the same time put a little bit of like story behind it. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of like tropes here, but it kind of makes sense for the firefighter, you know.
Yeah, and to me, I look at it like, yeah, this is a trope, this is cliche, but is it? Because I'm doing it with toys. It's not like it's a trope that's applied to other media, but have
Right.
people seen these tropes with toys? So
Yeah,
that,
and it sort of makes sense in a way, doesn't it? Because it's like the most expressive way you can actually show off what the
yeah,
toys are about and
yeah.
everything. Yeah, yeah.
I try not I even in my own work I've always tried not to only do action shots because action shots are like it's like blockbuster movies, like it's fun, popcorn, mindless, pretty, but it you can't only have that.
You
You
need an
need
Oscars
story.
performance. You need an Oscars performance in
Yeah,
there,
you
don't
need
you?
you need story. You need you need the other things to tie it together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And again, like, yeah, something about your work I've always really enjoyed. I've always loved the promo images are some of the most my most like favorite things about the drops because it's always like, what have they come up with narrative wise? What has Matt come up with in terms of, like visually going on here? And that's always really, really important, I think. But yeah, great work on the firefighter.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I like the fact, you found lots of ways to get all the accessories sort of like clearly shown off as well. Like there's obviously one where they're using the jaws of life, but it's kind of like they've been used and the guy's turning around almost to the camera and they're lifting the garage door up sort of thing. So he's kind of used it maybe to break the door open or something like that. Is that what I'm getting there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm just again because it was just a garage with like two windows, so I'm trying to figure out what makes sense for the accessories, like the Jaws of Life. Because there's like a shot I think with the Jaws of Life where he's maybe not quite facing or using it correctly or facing the right direction, but it's like I also still need people to see this, and
Right.
then like I'm not gonna. I try to make every shot count, especially with such a heavy accessorized pack. So in my head, I'm like, all right, did I show off this accessory? Did I show off this? Or okay, I showed off two accessories here, but maybe one of them didn't come through as much in the picture. So let me make sure I get another picture
Yeah.
like that. So I like there's one of the shots that like they were poking fun at in the chat. I think it was like kind of the job. I think it was kind of the kind of main shot of the firefighter just standing heroically, but
Yeah.
he's facing away from the burning building. So it's like
Yeah.
he's just standing there, like with I think the hammer on his shoulder, and the building's just on fire, and he's like, "My job is done here," So it's like for the sake of showing off the figure, it makes sense, but the building's still on fire in
That's
the
brilliant.
background.
What it would have been a good one is if you did on a heroic stance, and there's just like everything's put out and there's just smoke just everywhere, just billowing around like it's just done. But that's so funny. That's great. I didn't even think about that honestly, and now I'm looking at that particular image that you're talking about with the white picket fence in the background and everything.
Yeah.
Was the picket fence part of the house, or have you built a little diorama around it?
That fence is another thing that it wasn't. Maybe it was part of the house, or maybe it was part of that series from back in the day. But the fence itself was just a piece that we've had, and I've used that I think periodically. Maybe not
Yeah,
necessarily in GI Joe stuff, but I've used it in some shoots in the past. But it definitely, it made the garage seem more like a house.
that's so good. It's so cool. I love it. I really love it. I kind of wanted the house as well. I kind of want a classified scale house now so that we can have the SWAT team break some doors down, the blooming, the friggin' firefighter getting there. That's what I want to see. I want to see Shockwave kicking some doors in.
Yeah, I
Um,
always keep an eye out when I'm in like thrift stores or flea markets for like really nice old doll houses that are, because those can get expensive. So I look for ones I'm like, that's cheap and good condition and
yeah.
detailed enough. I haven't quite found it yet.
And also you want to be looking at like maybe some of the Barbie Dreamhouse kind of vibes because Barbie's a bigger figure. And if that's got to fit in a house, then classified would be comfortable in a scenario like that. So
I'm
yeah, Am
I've
I allowed
seen
to say
people.
Barbie Dreamhouse on a
I,
Hasbro related
Yeah,
episode?
maybe, I think so. Maybe I've seen people like in the toy community. They do take like Barbie and other doll houses and they customize it and they repaint it so it's because it's Barbie's world. It's pink. It's vibrant. So they repaint it more muted tones and whatnot. And then they use that in their action figure
Yeah.
like photos and stuff. And it's people make fun. They're like, oh, we're playing with action figures. We're playing with dolls. And it's like, no, we're not. But here's my Barbie dream house that I've converted into a command center for GI Joe.
There's a line you never thought you'd hear in your later years, but here we are. Dude, amazing stuff. Firefighter, absolute 10 out of 10 on that one. Another really beautiful visual that you came up with was Snake Eyes and the polar bear. So obviously we're dealing with snow, different environment completely, almost going from one extreme to the other here, from crazy hot house to a freezing cold environment. These were great, and one of the ones I absolutely kept poring over was one that's actually, you'd probably find it quite simple or straightforward, but it was just the way that you'd framed Snake Eyes in the shot with the polar bear sort of kind of on the edge to the left, kind of like, sort of that with the head kind of poking through, so almost like framing the space that Snake Eyes is in. You've got like a really perfect blend of like the snow on the ground and then the trees in the background and everything. And then, of course, you've got Snake Eyes in an action pose, radioactive hand holding the radioactive thing. And you've even put his pink hand on for that thing. So there's loads of little elements on that one I love. Is that something that you were really paying attention to, or is it like second nature to just knock these sort of shots up?
I mean, the pink the using the pink hand purposefully was definitely purposefully. There's another shot where he's laying down and he has like the karate chop hand. Like the karate chop hand, for example, I was trying to figure out like how am I going to use this pink karate chop hand
Right.
essentially. So when I thought of him passed out in the snow, I was like, perfect. That'll just lay right on top of the canister
Yeah,
and it's the radiation and now I've shown that accessory off like because I didn't want to have him karate chopping the
a
polar
polar
bear
bear.
with the pink hand. As fun that would have been funny and possibly on brand, but I was trying to figure out different ways to use the accessories than maybe they were intended for. So yeah, I was definitely like trying to show those off in a purposeful way that made sense in the story.
Brilliant. And then, of course, there's that kind of like showing the glow in the dark aspects as well. Is that just a black light kind of situation you've got?
Yes, yeah. Lenny had told me that the black light, he that they just show really well in the black light, which is something I never thought about because glow in the dark accessories can be really hard to show up on camera, even because it'll like look amazing in hand, and you're sitting there doing a really long exposure, and it's still not really like a lot of times
Catching it.
just
Yeah.
things don't look on photo the way they do in person. But the black light, just I wish I thought of that or knew that earlier, or was given that advice sooner because I've shot other glow in the dark GI Joe accessories, but it worked great and it looked really cool.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal shot. It's a really good set of pictures as well, obviously. And again, a narrative running through it. Obviously, it ties very closely to the homage of the mass device and how Snake Eyes, meets a polar bear and nearly gets killed by it until the old man turns up and Timber helps out and so on and so forth. But in your photo set, it's slightly different. There's a cracking, obviously, there's a great shot of the polar bear attacking Snake Eyes, knocking the gun out of his hand, all that kind of cool stuff. But then we see him riding the polar bear. Is the narrative that he's made friends with this guy now, or is it just like a move that he's jumped on his back to kind of like knock him out or something?
I just thought that would just be a really fun shot that I just want to throw in there, even if it doesn't make sense. That was actually, for me personally, an homage to 1/6 Shooter. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Trevor. Great toy photographer, and he
Okay.
does really awesome photos for I think it's Four Horsemen.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
of the other toy companies that does really really fun like medieval fantasy type figures, and they have a bear, and but their bear is designed because it has a saddle for riding, and Trevor did this amazing shot of the figure riding that, and ever since I've seen that, I was like, oh, I want to shoot a figure on a bear. And so when I got this bear here, I was like, oh, my opportunity, finally. So that one was absolutely an homage to his work.
It looks some Dino Riders stuff going on here with Snake Eyes here. It's amazing. I love it, mate. Really good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I am surprised though. We didn't see like a throwback maybe timber come into to play on the trap. Is that one of those things where you maybe come up with an idea like that, but the team don't want to necessarily show older product?
Sometimes it's stuff like that. I know we spoke about it, and I think what all it really that one was like probably the last item I was shooting, and it was it was really getting to the end of the day, and we didn't have one on hand, and
Oh, okay.
no one could quickly
Yeah,
track one down. So it was like, so that's why I did kind of just, I think I put a little bit of blood in that one just to like kind of hint at what GI Joe fans know actually
right.
transpired.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I can imagine that in some cases, obviously with deadlines approaching and all that kind of stuff, that yeah, if it's not right there, and it's funny, I think everyone has this like idea of Hasbro of just having everything it's ever made on hand, just always around, and that just isn't necessarily the case in the every time, is it?
Yeah, and I mean even it is around, but it's buried. You know, it's like
Right.
the new stuff goes on top of the new stuff on top of the new stuff on top of the new stuff. So it's not all the time like is the older items just easily accessible. It needs to be tracked down. Who happens to have one on their desk posed
Yeah,
out or
that's what
something
you
like
want,
that?
isn't it? You want a timber
Yeah.
that just quick run round to all the desks and see if anyone's got one.
I've definitely done that before. When no one else is in the building, I'm just running around trying to see whose desk has something I need to borrow.
That's amazing. Um, if I worked there, I can guarantee you all of my classified figures would have been out. You could just take whatever you want whenever. That's amazing. Okay, so moving on from Snake Eyes and the Polar Bear, we'll get into now the first kind of wave of four figures that popped up at the start of the year in the live stream. So we had Footloose, Darklon, Blowtorch, and the Frag Viper. Now, this was definitely one of those kind of sets where we've got a new and well, it's an environment that you've used before, I think, isn't it? The kind of trees, the sort of mulchy ground, and everything. But this is like a new sort of storyline that's happening with these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think I've used those trees for GI Joe, but I've done
Interesting.
forests before.
Yeah.
And I've just and that like forest has is both my fa- my favorite and least favorite dio to do because I do forest for pretty much like forest goes with everything,
Right.
every brand, everything. So it's such a mess because I'm laying pounds of dirt on my table and I'm always trying to come up with a new way to make less cleanup afterwards, like just throwing a tarp on my table so that I could just lift all the dirt up easier. But
That's amazing.
yeah, and I'm always trying to like for me personally, I don't feel like I've nailed a forest where like the firefighter where I'm like, yeah, I did that. That one was good.
Oh, mate,
I don't think I'm gonna top the firefighter. If I had to do another firefighter, I'm like, that's set up. But I still don't feel like I've done a forest where I want to. So I'm always like chasing that.
you're
So
chasing the forest dragon.
chasing the forest dragon. Yeah, yeah.
That'll be the name of your autobiography. Um, I was going to say actually, because we've had promo images in the past that had some really good forests in them. Major Blood only had a couple of images, but it was a cool forest. The Tiger Force figures have had a lot of forest. Obviously, Wreckage, the Stinger. I mean, that's some solid forest there, dude. If you've had anything to do with any of those, mate, I think that dragon has been caught and
The sting,
slain.
the stinger was mine, and funny enough, the stinger is as close as I've come to really like nailing a forest the way I want to. But the other stuff was actually Corey's work, and he's always done like really good forests and really good jungles.
Yeah.
So he just always does his foliage is really good.
Corey's foliage is amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy good. In some of these shots, we definitely see kind of like a sort of narrative going on. We see a his tank down. We see Darklon kind of poking out of one. We see Footloose kind of chilling out. in his kind of characterized, very chill out vibes and everything. Were there any things? Was this a bit of a challenge based on the kind of very random nature of each character? It's not like they naturally feel like they all go together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the challenge is always like, all right, we have a week and we need 5 dioramas, or let's see if we can cut that to two, and who makes sense to go, where. Like that was, I think, that shoot might have been the same time with the Snake Eyes and Polar Bear set. So it was like, all right, I need to get this forest off my table and build a snowy mountain
What did you use
next.
for snow, by the way?
We have so many different things for snow. Like we've used I personally like to use what is it? I think baking soda, because
Oh, right.
baking soda is really white. Like some people will use flour, but flour, unless you get bleached flour, and
Yeah.
even then it's still not as white as baking soda can get. But we also have bags and bags of like Christmas
Oh, like the
snow,
fake snow.
or
Yeah, yeah,
that one, or like even stuff that specifically, I think it's called like Hollywood snow or something,
yeah.
where it's just, and I like that stuff because it's really sparkly, which is what I used in that one, and it really gives like
Oh, yeah,
it gives a snowy feel, even if it's not as like granular to scale
yeah.
as I would like, but all different things.
That's another thing you're having to battle with as well, especially with like the firefighter and the smoke, the snow, any water stuff. You have to kind of battle with scale a little bit. That's got to be like a challenge constantly, hasn't it? Like just making sure that, because the smoke that kind of billows at a size, and you sort of, it's not like it can look a bit weird and not quite right with the figure.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely it can be challenging to keep things to scale. Smoke kind of works, I think, really well just on its own, depending on like how much of it you're using.
Right.
It just kind of works and
You
looks
just kind of
right.
got to be strategic with where you place it, I guess, right?
Yeah, but I'm sure you've heard in like Hollywood they say water doesn't scale.
Water's the
Water
worst.
is very hard to use.
Look at all
I've
the old like movies. Well, I say old movies, but like 80s and movies where they've got like a little scale model of a dam. Like was it Superman? Uh,
Yes, yes, that's the first
and
thing that pops into my head too.
and then the water's busting through, and it just like this just looks like a toy
And
because the
then
water's really
it
massive. Yeah,
cuts to full size, to actual people, and then back to this very obviously tiny dam.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I love catching that though in movies where it is done well, but then you're like, wait, I think that's a model. But yeah,
yeah.
the water is definitely. I think I've only used water once, and the only other time for GI Joe where we've actually used water was the swamp Dia, which was before I worked there, though with the
Okay.
what's the character's name that comes with the crocodile?
Oh, a Crocmaster. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Crocmaster.
Yes. Yes. That was. To be honest, that was a really cool shoot because that was one of the wasn't one of the first that really kind of upped the game, but it was definitely one of those ones I remember vividly. And some of the shots were really interesting and like the kind of poses and everything. Did you have a lot to do with that one?
No, that was before I started. That, I believe, was this other photographer, Rachel, who
Oh, okay.
left to photograph horses, which is really cool.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, but she worked closely actually with Emily Bader on that, from what I remember. Like Emily brought real kind of plants and stuff from the pet store to,
That's so cool.
which is one of the reasons why that little swamp looks so good, is because it's a lot of actual real foliage.
Shout out to Emily Bader in the house. Yeah, she can probably hear me from the distance I live from her now.
Oh, I forgot you
We're
guys
like
are nearby.
we're like next door neighbors. Not exactly next door. No, there's still a bit of distance there, just enough to be comfortable. No, that's awesome, man. That's really cool, and always good to shout Emily out. That's crazy good. So basically, what you're saying is classified horses confirmed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
With Wild Bill. That's brilliant. Right then, as we go through some of those kind of like retail wave of four figures, we've also got like your frag vipers in there, which look great as well. And you started to kind of like sow the seeds a little bit, that because we've got like a little bit of kind of smoke showing up in Footloose's kind of imagery, ever so kind of very subtle use of sort of like ground smog, like fog for Darklon, and then the Frag Vipers are starting to throw some grenades about, and it's getting a little bit more smoky around there. And then we've got Blowtorch, and it's just everything's on fire. Is like, what was what was in your mind? What was happening with these four characters?
I don't think I had, and sometimes like the narrative either develops while I'm shooting or it doesn't, and I just try to make it fit. And I just knew like I wanted him to be in a forest fire, but because it, would give his set of photos something to differentiate them from the other forest photos. But I'm like, this makes him look like the baddie,
It looks like
you
he's
know?
trashing the joint, doesn't it? It looks like he's just like,
Yeah,
oh, screw this forest.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But
no,
but
that's
yeah,
that.
it's just the battle in this one. The narrative's light. It's the battle happening in the
Yeah,
forest.
no, that's cool, man. That's totally cool. And again, some of those blowtorch shots are amazing. What are you using for fire effects in the foreground here? Because there's a couple of shots where he's like, he's got the fire effect obviously on his blowtorch, but then in the like in front, like kind of blurred out a little bit, are like kind of some big fire effects. Are they just like kind of plastic kind of effects that you've got kind of lit?
Yeah, just plastic effects that I have around, just from I don't know. We like I said, like in our other interview, we have just a bin of junk toys,
Yeah,
and things. So we just kind of like, oh, this is a good piece, and then I'll take it out of that bin and put it into a smaller bin so it doesn't get lost,
it's
because I
like
know I'll probably make use of it at some point.
it's like the bin of forgotten toys. It's the
Yeah,
bin of
yeah,
forgotten Dio pieces that
yeah,
you throw
exactly.
your hand in every now and again. No, that's awesome. Law and Order also show up on this same background, kind of diorama background. That obviously has been like a very much a pattern that you guys do of when like there's a drop and like all the figures are in like the same sort of kind of time period, they all show up on that same diorama. And I mean, the very few examples where that has kind of deviated. But is that really just a practicality issue? Is that just because the dio's built and you don't really want to be building another one so
It's
soon?
it's practicality. There's only so much time to because if I had unlimited time, I'd give everyone their own diorama. And I've tried in the past, and if it just time works out where there's that much extra time that we can have like a really long shoot, or it's vital to have like specific dioramas, like the snake eyes and
Right.
polar bear shot. Obviously, I couldn't really put them in the forest. Um,
Yeah.
but the original idea with that was to like I try to make the dioramas efficient. So it's like that was the last thing. So the idea was okay, now I'll just throw snow on the forest and turn it
Right.
into the snow forest. But then I realized if I did that, I was going to ruin both my dirt and my fake snow because there would be no separating them after.
Totally. Yeah.
So
Once you mix the streams, mate, it's game over then, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. So and of course we can go get more, but it's just like the
Yeah.
idea of just I'm ruining perfectly good material. I might as well just clear it off and do a separate dio.
Makes total sense. The only other way would be kind of maybe to put some sort of like protection down first and then like have it sit, have the snow sit on something else. But again, it's such a pain in the butt. You might as well just, yeah,
Yeah,
either
saran wrap it
salvage it or
like a
yeah,
couch.
just the whole place covered in plastic,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
about to be sold. That's amazing. Yeah. So speaking, well, coming off the back of, I would say, Blowtorch's kind of images, and the fact you had the firefighter, we then travel to Mustafar for Target Breaker. Tell me, please tell me, this was a dio that you used to Star Wars at some point, because it just, in my head, I have you guys going, what are we going to do for Breaker? Well, part of the episode he's in the volcano, and then it'll be like, okay, was that what happened? Have I got that right?
No, I mean almost none of the dials are like very, very rarely are they pre-built like that. It's
Oh, okay,
materials. So it's going to be like, we do a volcano scene here is going to probably look kind of similar to a volcano scene
right, right.
there, but it definitely, everyone had the same idea that it was giving vibes of
It's
planets
it
from
does look
another place.
it does look like Darth Vader's going to pop up there at any moment. or flying past is going to be Obi-Wan and Anakin having a lightsaber fight
That would be
before.
funny in the background, just and the music is just playing, but it's really like distant. Yeah,
And Breaker's like, what's going on?
yeah,
No, this is really nice though. Again, like very much. There's some nice little subtle ones in here, like him wiping his brow with the helmet off, because obviously it's going to be hotter than the sun where he's standing.
yeah.
And yeah, and the other one I really like from that set is where he's kind of cutting a bit of material, like he's cutting a bit of the element off a rock. Was
Hmm.
that one where you're kind of like, oh, we could have it so that he's literally getting the element here?
Yeah, and it's back to that what we were talking about earlier with storytelling, like the wiping the brow. I think I just needed to have a shot of him holding the helmet because I think
Right.
he has the helmet off while he's doing it. So it's like, how
Yeah.
can I do that in an interesting manner to show that the figure can remove his helmet? Not physically, but you
Yeah.
can. Um, or the knife was just me trying to figure out how am I going to use his knife. There's no bad guys for him to fight here. So what is and I've done a bunch of versions of like people picking their nails with the
Yeah.
knife. I didn't want to do that again. So it's just what can I do? Oh, okay, he's collecting the sample.
Dude, it's I know it's sort of like that thing of, maybe it's a bit natural, sometimes it writes itself, but these are quite ingenious ways around things. I would never, I don't think, put in the same position, have thought of him cutting out like a random rock, as in like a bit finding the material in a rock sort of thing. I never would have thought of that in a million years. So that's like really, really quality, and probably why you get the job of photographizing is not a word. Photographing these wonderful toys. I love the one as well where he's just kind of like chilling and he's blowing a bubble with his bubble gum. Again, I imagine that's a similar kind of situation where you're just trying to find an interesting way of him blowing his bubble gum.
Yeah, I think I had him blown the bubble when he was also removing the rock, but that was probably also
Concentrating.
it was also probably just like I have 5 shots and I always try to hit six. What's another thing I can show off the articulation that it comes up to here,
Yeah,
and there's my last shot.
yeah, I love it. My favorite is the one where he's getting hauled up by, I'm gonna say, a dragonfly. Was that off camera? What can you tell us is there?
It is a light stand with a piece of wire, and that is the absolute truth.
How awkward is that? Because I was speaking about this with Pat on the last weekly we did, where we were talking about how you could hang certain like vehicles from the ceiling, but then how it gets a bit difficult when you're dealing with kind of like propellers and all that kind of stuff. And we would kind of get into that conversation. Actually, no, I was actually talking to this with another toy photographer in regards to very old school catalogs, right? And the beautiful dioramas that he used to do.
Hmm.
And one of them is in this Benelux catalog, and it's got Zanzibar kind of like hovering above this swamp in his air skiff. And what they've managed to do this thing where they've like affected the water somehow to make it look like one there's something coming off the skiff to create a ripple in the water, and then the ripples ripple out and come towards you on the camera. It's a beautiful shot. And but the thing is, it's like I'm looking at it going, how the hell did they like hold this up in the air? And like talking about that kind of how awkward it must be to get something in the exact right position when you're dealing with something like that. Is it a case where you kind of you get it roughly where you need it and then you start working out the length of the like the wire that you're using? Like how do you do that? Is it just a mess of like trial and error?
Yeah, it's mostly trial and error. I'm not a math person, so I'm not trying to calculate how long I need the wire to hit
Right,
in this
right,
exact spot. So it's always just I'm gonna take more than I need and just wrap the excess or cut the excess,
right.
and just like in camera watching it and maneuvering things. But yeah, it's a lot of awkward trial and error.
Because again, when you're dealing with something that's being like uh you know um held from like a height that's on like a there's going to be a lot of movement in that too. How did you kind of like how did you get around it kind of spinning or like keeping it in the right position, not blurring when you're taking pictures? Like how do you even do that?
Well, we're shooting with usually not all the time, but we're shooting with flash essentially, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
free. It's freezing the image either way. But if I need that wire might have been stiffer wire, so
Right.
it's not like just a string where it's spinning. So I'll try to use that. So a wire that looks like rope, I guess,
Yeah, yeah.
to fake that. Or there'll be another. I'll just then tie another wire like to anchor him to whatever he's
Right.
hanging by, and just like bunch of wires just pointing off in different directions, and it ends up kind of actually looking like a stunt rig. If you ever seen where they've
Yeah,
got
just
the,
like
yeah, so
yeah. Do you have to do a lot of post editing on these images? Do you have to do a lot of sort of like kind of touch ups? Do you have to end up doing like kind of removal of things like that if there's issues like that?
yeah, depending on what effects I'm doing, but that's just part of the process for me with my diorama photography is just shooting it, moving it into one program and then the next program that I need to, and then sending it off to our good people that catalog all of these images and take care of everything.
Awesome, man. Another kind of one, another Target exclusive, the divers, and of course these are gorgeous shots as well. To kind of do something underwater that isn't underwater is another challenge here entirely. Are you using kind of like filters? Are you using certain techniques to kind of get that sort of like, like a little bit of a fuzzy phase haze, but to also make sure that the figures aren't getting distorted? I mean, that must be a bit of a balance.
Yeah, this one I also kind of just went all in on underwater distortion because this is at this point maybe the fourth or fifth time that I've done these underwater shots. So I'm always also trying to, how can I make it different from the last one?
Right.
And I've experimented with that before. This is something that this photographer who unfortunately passed away many years ago.
Oh,
We might have touched on this actually in our last interview.
yeah.
There was Hasbro was posting when he passed away
Yeah.
several years ago. They were posting his GI Joe work because he was with Hasbro for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, but he would do underwater shots and he would like take saran wrap and pull it
Right.
over the lens and make it really hazy.
Yeah.
And it's really looks real, looks awesome, but there's also, just kind of the balance of like how we used to do kind of marketing photos versus how they're done now, and just that kind of push and pull of like want people to be able to clearly see the product
Mm.
versus, because when he would do it, it would probably be something in a magazine where it's meant to just be all in like a fun scene, a fantasy scene, magazine ad of just like GI Joe in action.
Right.
Whereas when I'm shooting it, it's meant to be the equivalent of seeing the item on shelves, kind of.
Right.
You're digitally browsing, so you need to be able to see it. So it's the balance of like going all in with the effects versus a product shot. But
Right.
for this one, I was just like, okay, I've done this underwater shot and messed around with that distortion so many times, so I just kind of went all in. I think there were a few shots where I still dialed it back just a little bit, where I was like,
Right.
okay, this is a blurry
Yeah.
blurry image. But if you look at those and compare them to like all the other underwater shots, they
Like
have more of a,
eels and yeah,
yeah, they have
torpedo and
more of a haze to them now than before.
yeah. These are. Did you do torpedo? That was you,
Yeah,
right?
I've
Yeah.
done all of our scuba divers so far.
Awesome. Oh yeah, of course we had the 60th, didn't we, as well? The 60th diver.
Yeah, which
Uh,
that one was a lot of fun.
yeah. Again, dude, I collect your promo images, basically. Like, you know how like you collect toys? I'm
Yeah,
collecting your pictures,
thank you.
basically,
That's cool.
and then talking about them a lot. Yeah, these are great, so good. And again, like you've got the tubes in the background from the tube worms from the Mass Device, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, that's a really nice kind of effect. What could you tell us what you do? Because it's like you can see a figure like way in the distance. Like how big are we talking here? How far away are those kind of like figures in the background and the kind of tubes?
I mean, it's probably the equivalent of if you had one of those like kind of folding picnic tables, the
Yeah.
ones that they sell in like Walmart and
Yes.
Target and everything. And the distance is probably like I would guess about one end to the other end.
Okay.
So they're
That's
really there. They're in the background,
yeah.
but they're not at miles away.
That's great. That's that big diorama still. But I guess the foreground stuff is, you might not have stuff on the table going from all the way, right?
No, no, no. I used to try to do that, and I still try to fill the table with as much stuff as possible,
Right.
um, which is more of a cleanup afterwards. But it gives you more natural shooting angles like that. But now I'm kind of streamlining it of like putting what I need and then just shifting things around just to
Yeah.
be like, okay, I can see the table right there. Let me just move this rock over, and now you can't
Right.
see the table.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I get it because it makes sense to, yeah, especially kind of use the perspective, I guess. Like
Yeah, that's
like
exactly what it is.
yeah, cheating to
Yeah,
make your life slightly easier would
yeah,
always be good. I love the shots as well of the kind of like with the out of the water and they're just on show, just being showing off, just standing around, looking cool.
yeah.
Also
and
nice.
and that again goes back to the storytelling accessories because they have a lot of like equipment that they wouldn't necessarily be using underwater in the battle.
Right.
So how do I show this off, and also how do I show this off quickly without having to build now
Right.
a
Yeah.
separate scene to
What did you use
just for
what
these?
for the sky? Is that like a TV screen situation, or are you using like a?
It's a poster.
Oh, okay, cool, nice. The other question I have about this is how did you get the effect of the red diver using the kind of like underwater vehicle?
Oh, that
Because
came out. Yeah, I know exactly which one.
beautiful,
I was really happy with how that came out. That was not like it was purposeful, but I couldn't have made it
right?
come.
It
It
just
was
kept
either gonna
yeah,
come out like that or it wasn't, and that's
yeah,
just a mix of taking the canned fog. I don't
yeah.
remember if it was the canned fog or the handheld fog machine, but taking fog, blowing it just directly into like putting it point blank up against it and blowing it through the fan
Man,
on the
yeah,
thing because it is they even though it's not like functional it the way they sculpted it, there's a separate, if I remember correctly, an actual
yeah,
separate fan in there that spins, which is really awesome detail, and it lets you
yeah,
do something like that. So it's a mix of the air being forced through there, kind of realistically,
yeah.
and the distortion from the saran wrap over the lens that
Oh,
just made it look
that's.
just essentially happy accident, which is oftentimes just what happens. Like so many nice photos are just happy accidents, and that's
Do you
exactly what it was.
you guys, I think I know we've seen like film footage of you guys kind of working on dios, but usually it's because like for a live stream or something, it's almost like a prepared sort of thing, so it's like ahead of the game. I think you guys should do more behind the scenes filming of when you do these shoots, because it would make for a really cool like for every single time you guys do a shoot, just throw out the behind the scenes footage. It would be so good.
Yeah, I mean, we film. They do film sometimes, and then it just depends if they need it or decide to use it or not.
Yeah,
But tell
I am.
Ben, tell BMAC, tell Emily,
I'm
tell
gonna
them
tell B, I'm
tell
gonna
them
tell
you want to
Lenny, and
see.
tell Tone, and tell all of them. Emily, be like, guys, can we start getting more behind the scenes of the dios being? Because I think, especially from other toy, like I'm talking on behalf of all toy photographers. No, I'm not, but like I'm sure there'd be loads of people. I know many actually that I think would love to see the process that you guys are going through. Because one thing, I think a lot of people who do this sort of thing are just like they've either been doing it for years, they've got loads of experience, they know what they're doing, or they're just making it up as they go along to see what kind of experimenting with this and trying this out and doing that. Or everyone has their different kind of techniques. I think it would be really cool as a thing to show some of the things that you guys do from like a Hasbro kind of perspective to the fans. I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would, of course, love to share that and do behind the scenes. Just keep asking them for it, and
We'll
maybe
do.
more stuff will happen.
The Matt Cohen documentary is what it could be. It's like the behind the scenes with shooting the galaxy. It'd be so cool. And I know that they have featured you guys loads, and I've seen you on, when you were doing the modular fortification diorama when you
Hmm.
guys were building that. That was heavily filmed. I know that you guys did. Oh God, you did that Dreadnoks like friggin' street scene the fans were voting for as the stream was
Oh yeah,
happening.
yeah, that one
Like
was a
so,
lot of fun.
I know you guys do get that sort of like that kind of coverage, but I think like technical aspects and like things that you looking at the setup from a different angle and seeing it kind of seeing the build to kind of get like a idea of the depth and the size and how it works on camera and stuff. I think that'd be really really cool, honestly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I agree, but just keep asking them
I'm on it.
for it.
I'll email them. And then of course we've got the canister. Again, this must be the same kind of vibe, kicking out some like smoke on this one, or what technically would be bubbles and steam, I guess. But is that the same kind of technique you've used where you've utilized the little kind of can?
Yeah, that's the canned air. And there's one cool thing, like again talking about happy accents.
Yeah.
So like the tubes for the worms in the show, if I remember, they're kind of textured and rocky looking.
Yes.
Um, the tubes that the pipes that I use were just like these plastic PVC pipes. There's
Oh,
no
right.
texture to them. But if you look at them, they look
Yeah.
like they have texture, and that's again the distortion happy accident. I was like,
Do you know
oh,
what?
that's perfect. Because I painted them, but I was like, oh, I kept them purposefully all the way in the background because I was like, these are gonna look really flat if they lack the detail. But then when you see
Yep.
the distortion just gave them the detail that was missing.
You wouldn't know that, like, only because you've said it now. That is, I can probably just go, oh, okay, yeah, I see that. But like, yeah, they kind of look like the kind of stony sort of like monument built that have just chipped away a little bit, sort of thing. Yeah, it's so, yeah, it's really good. That was a happy accident, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Something that I don't think was any accident at all was how absolutely stunning the snake armor shots are. Oh my god! So we've got the street scene. Is this the same, effectively the same sort of materials that you guys used on the previous street scenes that we've seen?
yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the there's like one building in this that's kind of featured more prominently, and I think that's a building that I haven't used before, and
Oh, cool.
because it's also like it's kind of smaller and out of scale, so it's again it's like forced perspective, keeping it in the
Right,
background, and it also kind of made the when you just look at the
snake armor
the snake armor by itself next to the building, like it almost changes the look of the scale. Not that
looks like a Godzilla. Like
yeah,
it's like Godzilla's going to fight it or something.
it just looked really cool next to it. So
Yeah. No, it's really, really awesome. It's funny you should say that as well, because obviously looking at them initially, I didn't really get that. I didn't think like, oh, that it doesn't look, it looks wrong or it looks out of scale or whatever. I just imagine, I think your imagination when you're looking at these sort of fill in gaps a little bit. And I look at it and I'm kind of going, oh yeah, that's the snake armor in the street. It looks amazing and it's doing loads of damage. And there's that building with like multiple windows that are all on fire. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. And I didn't, but until you mentioned it, I go back and look at the first one. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, that looks like kaiju snake armor is about to
yeah,
fight Godzilla.
yeah, like you almost expect the armor to open and it'd be like a little guy,
That
really
like
small
that
figure, and yeah,
tiny, yeah, it's really cool, man. And again, loads of good use of like subtle lighting here, because obviously it's at night, so it's that kind of thing of, making sure that the light sources aren't, you're not the thing isn't like super on show necessarily in some of the shots. There's a lot of like mysterious and dark and very like, I don't know, just terrifying lighting here, like especially when it's holding, is it Footloose by his ankles?
yeah. And that shot was like going back to the collaboration between the team. That was I believe the copywriter had recommended that
Oh,
because
Mark.
yes, Mark. Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if Mark's name had been dropped before.
Oh, Mark. Yeah, he said it's okay to say his name on. I won't say his full name, address, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to dox him.
So yeah, that was Mark's idea. Mark loves just being like in the shoot during the while it's happening and
That's
just
great.
throwing out fun ideas, and we try to collaborate and be like, all right, here's what I wrote for, what the description of the item is going to be, and it's like, how can we make line up the images with that? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't, but he always throws out some really fun ideas.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, again, like I love how it's lit this one, because again, it's a big vehicle. But again, that kind of like, the kind of like the fog on the ground or the smoke on the ground, the the shadows on certain aspects of it, because there are some shots where you can clearly see everything on it, but then I love that there's that, I don't know, it just makes it look a little bit more terrifying. And yeah, again, I don't think you need to be like super highlighting with really bright lights everything on the snake arm. I think it's just shot really, really well here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot. Now we're going to move on to Crystal Ball, because so these shots are some of my favorite, I think, of yours. and that's saying something. But like, there's shots that really highlight some of the really cool translucent accessories. And there's one shot that I had convinced myself features some sort of weird ghostly homage. And I'm gonna start with that one because this has been bugging me since the crystal ball images dropped. There is one image where he's got the Cthulhu hat on, he's got the crystal ball in his hand, he's got the pistol in his other hand. He's in like a crazy pose, nice little kind of angular shot. Looks like a green whirlwind is going around him. And either side of him, I have convinced myself that you have put in like almost like apparitions of possible homages, maybe like figures that we might see in the future. Am I barking up the wrong tree?
I literally don't know what you see in that image.
How is it only me that sees this? It's so funny. I'm
It is
gonna
just the smoke.
Did you 100% watch my reaction, by the way, when I first talked about these
I did,
images?
I did. I know exactly what you're talking
Because I
about.
was literally going, guys, I can see like two figures either side, like, as in like two ghostly
Yeah,
apparitions either side of him. And everyone said, no, you're seeing things. And this is just going to go down as another one of me seeing things that aren't there in the background. And this happens a lot, by the way.
happy
Um,
accident.
yeah, but it looks great. It really does look like he's summoning demons or something either side. It's incredible shot. It's one of my favorites of all time.
It's honestly one of my personal favorites too. I had a lot of fun with that. That one was just like the effect came out pretty much how I was hoping it would.
It's brilliant. Are you using some sort of light on a thing? I mean, is that an after effect? What are you doing? How is he getting
It
that green light?
it's that's light painting, and it's just and so it's a mix of I'm spraying the smoke and spinning it as quick as possible to try to like
Catch the
twirl
light.
and twirl up the smoke a little bit.
That is nuts. Because look at how it came out. Look at it. It's amazing how that one turned out. It's beautiful. Yeah, that was an incredible effect, dude. And so there's no post, there's no after effects on that. Like that is
N-
like in
No,
camera.
it'll be like the After Effects are what we spoke about earlier, where it's
Yeah,
taking different shots and it's like, okay, I like the light hitting the corner here and the
right.
smoke hitting the corner here, but it's otherwise it is in camera.
Yeah,
It's not smoke that like a
yeah.
file of smoke or something.
Right. That's mate, unreal. Unreal. And again, how many pictures did you take of that particular pose, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. That one was probably like 20 to 30 of
Yeah,
just
I'm
like
not
and
surprised.
and again way more than was needed because then when I'm taking I'm like I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And then sometimes as I'm going through it the layers I'm like why did I put this in here? I don't
Right.
need there's nothing here,
It's
you
hard
know.
to keep track of it when it's so many, honestly. Also in the background, is that the same location as the snake armor and the streets and everything? I mean, is that going through your mind at all? Are you thinking about these things in the same way that I'm thinking about them? Like they're in like a universe and that's like a location and a place?
Yeah, it's a mix of that and again the like efficiency of trying to get the job done on time. So that's actually technically the same location as the firefighter. It's just that for the firefighter I just plopped the building down with some sidewalks and then I ended up like grabbing some more buildings for the far background, but and moving everything else I don't need, just
Got
sweeping
it.
it off the table. But so it's just like how I build the sets and just to know, okay, I'm moving from this to this to this
Yeah.
just to keep it going smoothly.
That's awesome. And again, the street in the background, that is tiny buildings a little bit closer, or is that like the same size buildings really far away?
On which one are we talking
Well,
about?
now I'm looking, by the way, at the one where he's kind of doing he's got the regular head on. He's pointing the gun like that, and he's holding the sword in his right hand with the Cthulhu mask on the
Eh,
floor. Again,
Yeah.
it's at an angle, and in the background you've got all of the buildings and like a big kind of like Tetris block on the right hand side, which looks like the damage of a ruined sort of building.
Yeah, those in the background are tiny buildings.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. I want to ruin all the magic for everybody, basically. That's what I'm doing. There's some really good, I love that one this is one of my favorite shoots. Genuinely, I love the one where he's got all the gear on. He's got the shield, he's got the sword, he's got the hat, helmet, and he's in that kind of like the classic, bend one leg really tight and have the other one extended kind of pose, which I've done to so many of my classified figures. It's like the go-to move, isn't it? I love it. And then it's got like all the smoke on the floor, but then you've got this real powerful light hitting everything. Is it like green light? Is it like a regular light? Is it what are you using?
I think it was regular light, and it's just filtering through the green transparent effect pieces. I
Because
don't
it
because one of the things you try not to do is heavily change the way
right.
the figure looks. So like if the whole figure was cast in a green light, then it's like, well, what are the actual colors essentially?
Yeah.
So it's like that's another thing of like balancing like a product shot with, a fun shot. So that, if I'm remembering, was just a regular, neutral, I guess you would say, light, and it's just
Yeah.
filtering through the green because the effects just take the light like that. They just look really cool.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It looks gorgeous. I love it. And of course, I think the most badass, could I say that? Is the shot of him in the background, kind of very, very kind of like, hazy, you can hardly see him, and then in the foreground is the floating crystal ball. How did you achieve a floating crystal ball, please?
Actual magic.
Oh, okay, I thought it might be.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is that that's wire trick. It's always wire tricks with that kind of stuff.
It's so good. And again, like, I don't know, it's just some really nice arrangement. It's spot bang in the middle of the shot as well. You've even got the kind of smoke again going on. It's just it's lovely. And again, the light that is like emanating through that crystal ball and kind of going onto crystal ball and just lighting them up in the background. Yeah, really nice stuff, dude. Lovely. Okay, yeah, so that's definitely my favorite, I think, of all of the images that we've seen so far. But now we're going to move on to the most recent stuff that you've been involved in. Now, in April, because we're in May now, believe it or not, where is the year going? Seriously. But in April, we had a little social drop with 4 new retail wave of four figures and the claw, which was pretty cool. Now, what was your involvement with these?
The claw is the only one that I shot from that wave. I must have been assigned to something else. I don't even remember, but I wasn't able to shoot the other ones. But of course, when I can't work on something, it goes to our lead photographer Corey, who's
Okay,
plenty capable. He's an amazing photographer, and he's the one who essentially brought dioramas back to GI Joe Classified because those
that's
first
rad.
few waves were all his dioramas. I believe it might have been his idea to pitch that. Maybe. I think I might have remember hearing that. But either way, he brought the dioramas back to
Yeah,
GI Joe. He did a really like the very first wave is one of my favorites of his,
yeah.
where it's like they're
The
going
Mars
into
barrels and the industrial.
yes, yes, and
Yeah,
the lights and the kind of industrial tunnel looking thing. Really, really cool stuff. But so
yeah, that was
he shot
brilliant.
everything else, and then I had the
And the dojo as well. The Arashikage like diorama was amazing. That I
yes,
think he had a
yeah,
lot to do with, didn't he? Like I remember there was a few videos going around behind the scenes. I know Corey was kind of front and center at that point, um, like on video and stuff, doing a couple of things as well. And I remember seeing him working on, I think it would have been what would have been the Snake Eyes movie Arashikage Dojo, that then
okay,
was used for like Zartan, Storm Shadow, Spirit and Freedom
yeah,
randomly.
yeah. I remember those photos. Yeah,
Yeah, but like, yes, and just yeah, that Arashikage Dojo scene was phenomenal. And yeah, I love that Mars kind of in like it's like a Mars building out the back, industrial estate, toxic waste barrels, and all sorts of cool stuff
yeah.
going on.
He had an awesome shot that I always think back to, where I think it's like they cut the chain link fence and they're pulling it back so they can all sneak in through there. It's really cool
Yep,
stuff.
yep, that was cool. Okay, well, coming back to your most recent work, then the Claw. Some of these are again phenomenal. This to me, I was assuming this was all done around about the same time as the modular fortification. Would that be correct in saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So okay, cool. So this one's been in the chamber for a while then.
yep, yep. Yep, that one they've been holding on to that one for a little while, but I'm glad to see the photos and the product out.
Yeah, again, cracking job on this, including it's a very simple shot. This one I'm going to highlight, but it's the one where it's landed on what looks to be some sort of like little helipad, or just like a little pad with the little yellow stripes in the square around it, sort of thing. What like with that, is that something that was just laying around that you've used, that Hasbro have used in the past, or did you have to build something
That
to make a
that
pad?
that one was laying around. A lot of the stuff is just it's usually laying around, and we like I said we have this big resource wall, and we just try to pull from that for efficiency and cost for time and cost efficiency. So that's a piece that I really like using. I've used it in a bunch of stuff. Usually I think pretty much all GI Joe.
Yeah.
You can actually see it. It's the helipad for the helicopter HasLab also.
Oh, the dragonfly,
Yes, the
fantastic.
dragonfly. It's also the if you go back and look at those shots, you'll see it used there as well. But yeah, it's just it. I don't know what the original purpose of it was, but it makes this really perfect landing pad for
It's
vehicles.
so cool. It looks great, and I love the shot of the female pilot hopping the sandbags, kind of like like leg in the air sort of thing, gun
Yeah.
in one hand, hand on the sandbags. That's a really good one. What are you utilizing that? Are you just having to like fix her somehow to the pad to the sandbags, or is that
Uh,
like a stand that you're utilizing?
what do you think?
I want to say this is good. I think this is how the interview should go. You should ask me how I think you've done it, and then you tell me how you did do it.
Yeah, you're having me reveal all the secrets.
Have you? Is this just a like a held up cable scenario?
It was yeah. I don't remember if it was suspended or
Oh,
sometimes it's
right.
on the ground, but yeah, it's a cable holding it up.
So kind of like like a strong wire sort of job, maybe to
Yeah,
right.
I like to use jewelry wire. Like I've got rolls of it here in my house for my own personal work. I've got it at work. Like it's just a really good because you can pretty much cut it with scissors
Yeah.
depending on the gauge. So it's just something you can really quickly rig up, wrap around things, and just help suspend whatever it is that you want to be suspended.
What about the flying shot? That one, I really love that one that is kind of um flying away from an explosion. Like it's probably just like either escaped being shot at, or it's just dropped some ordnance, which would be weird because it's on a Cobra base, so I don't know
Yeah.
why they would be dropping an ordnance on its own base. But it looks really, really cool, like that kind of angle across across the shot. And in the background you can see the depth of the distance from the building and everything. It's just really nice. Is that another? Is that? I mean, that's got to take some time getting that in the right position.
Yeah, that one definitely takes time. Those are pretty complicated shots, but it's the same idea of just rigging up some stands and holding it up. But it's funny that you brought up, the did did the pilot bomb their own people? Because I was worried people were going to think that. But if you look at the vehicle, it still has both
Still got
bombs
its
on it.
ordnance.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like it. That's the homage. So it's being attacked basically, and it's just flying through. Yeah, I see. It's all good.
Well, if you think back and you go back to the rest of the photos from that
Oh,
scene, from that wave, there's a
yeah.
whole battle going on. So it's not necessarily that it's being attacked, but it's
But
flying
the
over.
base is, and it's flying
Yeah.
out. Right. Yeah, of course. Also, the explosion, is that just one of those sort of like explosion pieces that you can then light from inside?
Yeah, that to see like that's a piece that I built, which is
Oh,
just a
cool.
yeah, which is just a really awesome little cotton ball fireball thing that you can I think the technique originated for like tabletop games of just a
Yeah.
way to show damaged like troops and uh pieces and whatnot. And I've seen people kind of expand it into toy photography, and it just you do a bigger version of that, and you can see it just looks really good as an
It looks
explosion.
great. It looks phenomenal. Yeah, they're all really, really cool. Out of all the ones that have come out this year, all the different shoots, what have been the hardest ones to do? So what's been the hardest kind of like shoot to do? Whether it was a fact of having to build the more dio building was necessary, or the shots were just taking the longest time to try and get right, or were more complex. What was the hardest one for you to do this year?
I mean, the year's only just started.
Well, I mean, from
Uh,
what we've gone through, as in
oh,
what's been
okay, yeah,
revealed. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. I don't know. That's a tough one. I honestly don't. I mean, none of them have really been particularly hard. I will say probably. All right, I guess if I had to pick, I would pick the forest because the way that those all of those logs are balanced on the table, it just takes one wrong move
Oh,
to just to topple them. And the thing is, they're heavy. Like
I
it's
didn't even.
wood.
Do you know what? I didn't even think about that, Matt. I thought you had like at least affixed the tree elements to some sort of board or
No,
something.
they're fixed. There's like stands that are out of frame that they're kind of wired to, but at that point you think about how many trees there are, how many stands, trying to tie multiple to one stand, so
Right.
I don't have 40 stands and now I can't get to the table.
Anywhere.
Yeah, so it's like stuff like that. Like so that one was definitely and then you're taking a picture, you don't even realize that one of them is already tipping
Oh
and then just
no.
comes down on you and you're looking up and seeing all of them. You gotta jump up and
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
a
yeah,
yeah.
that's definitely that would probably be
I'm
it.
surprised that didn't come to mind immediately, honestly. That would drive me nuts having to do that.
Probably from the hit on the head.
Yeah, the headshot definitely has something to do with that. What about your favorite? What came out the best for you? What were you like really happy with in terms of the execution of some of the shots?
Oh, definitely Crystal Ball. Like I said, that is my favorite from that set. Everything pretty much came out exactly how I was picturing. Just that that one for me is going to be hard to top for a while.
And isn't it funny that we've kind of come full circle a bit here because on the last interview we did, we talked about Nemesis Immortal, and in the
Yeah.
background there was a character in the little like background, and we were like, "Oh, who is it?" And we were saying, "Is it the Cobra La Guard? Is it like Pythona? Is it like some who could it be?" And lo and behold, it was Crystal Ball the
Yep.
whole time.
Yep.
How happy were you for people to find out that finally around Toy Fair time?
Oh yeah, I'm always excited to see when the fans are able to get like their theories
Right.
confirmed or not. It's
I
it's
don't think
it's
many
really
people.
fun watch.
I don't think many people thought Crystal Ball though,
I don't remember if I read anyone thinking it was Crystal Ball.
because you said that on the interview. You said, "I don't think anyone's got it yet,"
Yeah,
and yeah, I
because
think you're
I don't remember seeing anyone mention him.
no, that was brilliant. And just out of curiosity, how does that narrative mix with the one with Crystal Ball? Is there anything kind of connecting the two locations together there? Is it like or is it like just two different locations, Crystal Ball and Nemesis Immortal?
No, two different locations
Okay,
for it. That one's more of like Crystal Ball is just in that war zone that's going on,
yeah,
between the mech suit and then like even the firefighter in a way
yes.
is like kind of the aftermath of what's going on.
I like that because I never put those together
Yeah.
because I sort of see the 60th and the legacy now. I see those as almost like a separate thing.
They
But yeah, why can't they be in the same? I mean, why
yeah,
can't they be in the same narrative? That makes total sense.
I mean the brand might. This is my head canon.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
this is my head canon when I'm doing the photos.
Yeah, yeah. Totally understand. Yeah, that's totally fine. Do you like the fact that people come up with their own ideas, or do you get like you're like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this is what I was aiming for. Do you get
No,
annoyed when people come up with the wrong things?
no, I really like that because it I find it interesting to see whether or not my story ideas translate and people
Yeah,
pick up on it,
yeah,
or and also sometimes people just come and I can't think of an example right now, but I have read just some really fun ideas of stories coming out of it. I'm like, oh, I see that. Like that
yeah.
wasn't my intention, but I see that that works and it's better than what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's always an option, isn't it? Someone might come up with a better idea somehow.
Yeah,
No, this is great, man. Matt, dude, we've gone through all of the images, by the way.
yeah.
It's only been a few months. Bloody hell, calm down. I assume we have a ton more wonderful Matt Cohen shooting the galaxy images to come this year. Is there anything you can talk about at the moment? Can you go into any sort of like hints as to what's going on at the moment? Have we got some cool stuff coming at least?
There's always cool stuff, but that's all I can say.
Of course, of course. Well, there's the spoiler, guys. Some cool stuff coming, and that doesn't mean Arctic operations, all right? Which is everyone's going to be like classified, this confirmed.
The,
No, thank
you,
you very much.
sorry, it's just it's really funny when you mention that, because I see like that's kind of like the one way I see fans try and like comment if it's this, don't comment if it's
Yeah,
that.
what I get all the time in the comments is wink twice if it's this, and I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, guys, I'm not doing it.
yeah.
I'm not winking twice. Yeah, it's funny. I do love that. And again, like you must be like really happy with the way the fandom has kind of, I want to say accepted you. That sounds really weird, but do you know what I mean? Like have kind of taken to your work with Hasbro, because it's not just the GI Joe fandom that like I go nuts over the promo images. I can't wait to talk about them. So I mean that must fill you with a little bit of like joy that people are really getting a kick out of these.
Yeah, it really is really it's a really, oh, my camera. It's a really rewarding job. It's fun. It's not work, and it's
Right.
just, and it's just it's really rewarding. That's the best way to put it. I love seeing the reaction, reading the reaction, and just like on set, just the whole photo team and the brand teams. We're all just having so much fun.
Brilliant, man. Absolutely fantastic. Matt, thank you so much again for joining me, and to chat about all of the I think over 100 images that we talked about today, which is crazy. We're going to have probably more to talk about later this year, but would you be up for coming back on and just chatting through new stuff whenever it pops up?
Yeah, of course.
I'm obviously always excited for Yojo June, which is how is it a month away? How are we already nearly at Yojo June? That is criminal how fast this year is going.
Yeah, it's just, and then once June is over, like that's it. The year is over. Start 2026.
Yeah, 2029. Just jump to 2029. No, I also you've got SDCC around the corner as well. July. There's blooming PulseCon at the end of the year. There's, oh my god, it just keeps going, and it's great. But we're going to see loads more from you, of course, and obviously the wonderful folks at Hasbro. We'll be speaking to Lenny and Tony as well soon, so I'll also say hi. Even though you work with them, I'll say hi from you, even though you'll
Yeah,
probably be in
yeah.
the same building as them
Yep.
at that moment.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Steve, for joining. Really appreciate you coming on, mate.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Always. Right then, guys, in the comments, let us know some of your favorite. I know we're not live, don't worry. Let us know some of your favorite images from Matt, and I'll make sure he sees them. I'll make sure he goes through all our comments afterwards to see your favorite images from Matt so far at Shooting the Galaxy, or just in general. What are your favorite Dio images that you've seen from Hasbro over the last, I don't know, what are we in at 5 years, let's say, based on the classified life so far? And then, yeah, what we should do, Matt, is we should also you should pick your top 5, and I'll pick my top 5, and we'll talk through them on the next one. How's that sound?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. Right then, cool. Stay fresh, cheese bags, as I always say. And of course, after 3, I think you know what to do, Matt, at the end of these episodes.
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Full force.
I lost my voice as I did that as well.
Off.
Access granted.
Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. And as always, you can keep up with the show after listening by following on all of our social platforms, links in the description. And if you would like to contact the show, you can message us on any of those platforms with feedback or questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full force.
Access granted.